Hello boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Eunice Brown in Storytown. Today's book is called Rose Meets Mr Wintergarten and it's written by Bob Graham. And the story goes like this. The morning the Summers family moved into their new house, they felt at home. Faith and Rose put up their pictures. Baby Blossom watched. Mr. and Mrs. Summers planted pansies, petunias, daisies and geraniums. Oh, they are my favourite flowers, I can tell you that right now, boys and girls. I love some petunias, daisies and pansies, and especially my beautiful geraniums in full bloom right now. Yes. Their garden was a carpet of flowers, all before the sun went down. Isn't that wonderful? They managed to get all those flowers in on the day they arrived. Very busy people they are, aren't they? All those beautiful flowers. Every morning from the roof of their house, the Summers watched the sun come up. The sun never touched the house next door. Next door, everything bristled. Next door lived Mr Wintergarten. Dear oh dear, boys and girls, what can you see in this picture of Mr Wintergarten's house? Does it look all nice and colourful like the Summers house? No, it's all dead looking, isn't it? And there's not very much colour in it either, is there? There were stories in the street about Mr Wintergarten. "He's mean," said Emily. "And horrible," said Arthur. "He's got a dog like a wolf," said Naomi. "And a saltwater crocodile. They say he rides on his crocodile at night," said Emily. "And getcha!" Arthur shrieked. "I don't believe you," said Rose. "Anyway, don't frighten Blossom." "My dad lost his football over there when he was a boy," said Emily. "You can just see it through the prickles, old and flat as a pancake." "No one ever goes in there," said Arthur, "in case Mr Wintergarten eats them." That sounds a bit scary, boys and girls. Do you really think Mr Wintergarten would eat them? "If your ball ever goes over," said Naomi, "forget it." And just then, Rose's ball went straight over Mr Wintergarten's fence. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen, boys and girls? Rose went to tell her mum. "Well, honey bunch," Mum said, "you can get your ball back. Why don't you just go and ask him?" "Because he eats kids," said Rose. "We'll take him some hotcakes instead," said Mum. "And maybe some flowers." Mr Wintergarten's front gate had not been opened for years. Rose heaved and pushed. The gate groaned and squeaked. Then slowly it swung open. Rose could see that there was a dog, big as a wolf. "I can't see any crocodile," she said. "I should hope not," replied Mum, and threw the dog a cake. Rose knocked at Mr Wintergarten's door. "Who the devil is that?" shouted a voice from inside. "It's me," said Rose, and tiptoed in. "What do you want?" said Mr Wintergarten. "I'm Rose Summers from next door. I've come to ask for my ball back." She twisted her fingers in her handkerchief. "I've brought some flowers and hot fairy cakes from my mum." Mr Wintergarten glared at her. Look at that look on his face. Does he look like a happy person to you, boys and girls? Not so sure about that. His dinner was cold, grey and uninviting, with bits of gristle floating in it and mosquitoes breeding on top. Ah, my goodness, that is disgusting. How does he not get sick? But Rose could see that he wasn't eating children. Well, that's a relief, isn't it, boys and girls? "Please, may I look for my ball?" she asked. "No," growled Mr Wintergarten. "Clear off!" But when Rose had gone, Mr Wintergarten slowly pushed back his chair and did something he hadn't done in years. I wonder what it's going to be. Can you think what it might be, boys and girls? Mr Wintergarten opened his curtains. Look at that. There's a bit of light shining in on his house now. It's nice having a bit of sunshine coming in through the windows, isn't it? He sat on his front step in the sun. "No one has ever asked for their ball back," he said to himself. "Or brought fairy cakes." He saw Rose's ball and thoughtfully pushed it with his toe. Next he did some darting movements that made his coat-tails fly in the sun. And then Mr Wintergarten kicked the ball. Oh, look, boys and girls. He's kicked the ball so hard that his socks and his shoe has flown off his foot. That's a bit funny, isn't it? He kicked it right back over the fence. "Good kick," said Rose. "Thank you," replied Mr Wintergarten. "Would somebody mind throwing back my slipper?" he added. "I will," said Rose. She threw his slipper high into the air. Look. She's thrown his slipper all the way back over the fence. "Catch, Mr Wintergarten," Rose called, and Mr Wintergarten caught it. Ah, that's the end of the story. And now look at Mr Wintergarten's house. Can you see what's happened to his house? It's not so gloomy and doomy anymore, is it? Thank you for listening to another episode of Eunice Brown in Storytown. And don't forget to brush your teeth tonight. See you later, lovelies.